Okay, so we're talking about tuplets and duplets and irrational rhythms today. So just to review, compound versus simple time. What's the difference? Simple breaks up into sets of 2 and compound uses 3. Okay, so simple is always in groups of 2. Compound is always in groups of 3. So what we use these duplets and triplets and different irrational times for, or irrational groupings, is to fit a 3 into simple time or to fit a 2 into compound time. Does that make sense? So the first one we're going to talk about is the triplet, because it's one that you see more often. So a triplet looks like this. So it's showing 3 notes together. It has to have a 3 on top to tell you that it's a triplet. There are all kinds of different notes you can use for triplets, pretty much all of them. This one is an 8th note triplet. Could also have a quarter note triplet. You could have a half note triplet. You could have a 16th note triplet. You could have a whole note triplet. Really doesn't matter. As long as it's 3 notes together with that 3 on top, it's telling you it's a triplet. So the triplet is to fit into simple time. So would you see a duplet in simple time? No. Would you see a triplet in compound time? No. Because compound time is already in groups of 3. Okay? So this is irrational. We're trying to do something that goes against the nature of the time. Okay? No, I haven't done tens yet. Okay. So, a triplet gets the same value as 2 of the same. Okay, so in the 8th note triplet, it gets the same value as 2 8th notes. Okay, so we just kind of pretend when we're counting this, like to figure out how many beats it gets, just pretend that last 8th note's not there, and it gets 2 8th note beats. So you're fitting 3 notes into 2 8th note beats. If you have a triplet of quarter notes, how many beats would that get? 2. It'd be the same as 2 quarter note beats. So you're fitting 3 beats into 2 quarter note beats. What about the half note triplet? You'd get 4 beats, yeah. And 4, well, if it were in 4/4 time, not that it would be, but yeah, so it's the same as having 2. So that is the same across the board for all triplets. So for example, if I were writing a rhythm in 4/4 time, I could have quarter note, quarter note, quarter note triplet, and that would fill that measure. So it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So they'd all be kind of in weird spots, right? So if I were to clap that, if this were my tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So they don't come right on the beat. Okay? Question? Sure. Okay, another example, I could do quarter note, half note, and an 8th note triplet. So 1, 2, 3, 4 would be ta, 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 ta. Sometimes what I'll say to people is say triola or blueberry. That'll help you find where that beat should go. So if I were doing that one measure again, it would be ta, ta, blueberry. Okay? So there's some different ways to count out your triplet. 3 notes into 2. The duplets are exactly the opposite. So how many notes are you going to see in a duplet? What do you think? 2. Good. So a duplet looks like this. There's an 8th note duplet. A quarter note duplet. A half note duplet. A 16th note duplet. It's exactly the same, but the 2 is on top now instead of the 3. So with a duplet, it's exactly the opposite of the triplet. So now instead of putting 3 beats into 2, we're putting 2 beats into 3. Okay? So this duplet gets the same value as 3 8th notes. The quarter note duplet gets the same value as 3 quarter notes. And the half note duplet gets the same value as 3 half notes. Okay? And the 16th note duplet would get the same value as 3 16th notes. So now if I were writing in compound time, I'll use 6/8 time. And I had 3 8th notes, I could fill that measure with an 8th note duplet. Okay, so the first one would be 1, 2, 3, and this would get 4, 5, 6. Okay, so if I were to clap that, I can't clap because I've got an iPad in my hand, but it'd be T, 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 T. Okay, that's how you would fit that in. That's what it would sound like. So those 8th note duplet, it's a little bit slower than the 8th notes because we're trying to spread them over 3 8th notes. Okay, so that's an irrational rhythm. It's not in the nature of 6/8 time to have something that's separated into 2 beats. That's why they call them irrational rhythms. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So next is syncopation. Typically, like in 4/4 time, where are the strong beats? What beat would be the strongest in 4/4 time? Remember we did a whole exercise with this last year where we all clapped, and some people were clapping whole notes, and some people were clapping half notes, and some people were clapping quarter notes.
When did we do that?
Pardon? The first beat in 4/4 time is the strongest. Okay? If you guys didn't do it. Okay, so I would like this part of the room, you are going to clap whole notes. Okay? I'm splitting between Angel and Yasmin and Owen and Julia. So over here, 2, 4, 6 people, you're going to clap whole notes. This group in the middle, okay, including Amy, you are going to clap half notes. Okay, you're in the half note group. This group here is going to clap quarter notes. Okay, but I'm going to cue you in. Are you ready? So whole notes are going to be first. 1, 2, 3, and. Oh, that's really wimpy. And. 2, 3. A little louder. 2, 3, and. You can put your pen down. You might need your hands more. Okay, ready? Half notes. Ready, go. 4, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready, quarter notes, and. Come on, whole notes. And that's it. So, which one of those 4 beats was the loudest, and why? Mackie? Which beat was the loudest? Sydney. Good. The first beat is the loudest because everybody in the room was clapping on beat 1. Okay? The whole note beat. Every single person in the room was clapping on that beat. Which beat was the second loudest? The third. Why? Because the whole note, the half note and the quarter note people were all clapping. So the only people who didn't clap on beat 3 were the whole note people. Not that they were clapping very loudly. Okay? So they weren't clapping on beat 3, but everybody else was. And beats 2 and 4, who was clapping on 2 and 4? Just the quarter notes. So those were the quietest beats, because the only group we had clapping were the quarter note beats. And that's how 4/4 time should feel. It should always be strong, weak, medium, weak, strong, weak, medium, weak. That's how 4/4 time flows. As a drummer, what beat do you normally put your foot pedal on? If you're only going to choose one beat of the bar, which one do you put it on? 1, because that beat should be the strongest. Okay, so very typically a drummer will use that foot pedal on 1 and sometimes 3. That's a typical drum foot pedal beat, 1 and 3. Okay, to make those beats stronger, because you want 4/4 time to feel that way, strong, weak, medium, weak. Okay? So what happens with syncopation is they take that and they shift the strong beat. Okay, so if I have 4 quarter notes in 4/4 time, we have strong, oopsies, that's not a very nice, there we go. Strong, weak, weak, and then medium weak. Okay? So those should be strong, these should be weak, medium, and weak. That is a normal 4/4 pattern. Okay? So when you use syncopation, you shift the accent. So if I wanted this to be played with an accent here, that would be syncopated. The most typical syncopated rhythm we use is where we put a quarter note, half note, and then a quarter note. Why do you think that would throw off our pattern? Why would it throw off our pattern? Yes? Yeah, you're not doing anything on beat 3. You're just holding through. So how could there possibly be a stronger beat on beat 3 if you're not doing anything there? So what that does is it shifts the strong beat to beat 2, creating a syncopated pattern. Okay, so instead of having strong, weak, medium, weak, strong, weak, medium, weak, we have strong, strong, weak, strong, strong, weak, or medium, strong, weak, because that note should pop. That syncopated note should pop. Okay, so that's one of the most typical syncopated patterns. You can go smaller than that, though. So, example, in 4/4 time, I could have an 8th note, quarter note, 8th note, half note. Bum bam bum bam, bum bam bum bam. That's also syncopated, because all of a sudden, halfway through the first beat is where we have our strong point. Okay, so that's all syncopation is you're just moving that accent or moving the normal feel of the music. Okay, so an anacrusis is actually what we know as a pickup beat. So if you use a pickup beat, where do we borrow those beats from? Where do we borrow the time to use a pickup beat? So if we have 2 beats before the song starts, again, we're pretending we're in 4/4 time. Where do we borrow those 2 beats from? The end. Okay? So your pickup beat and your last measure should add up to 4. So the last measure is 1, 2, 3, and your pickup is 4 and. Okay, so you're borrowing from the last measure of music. More specifically, from the end of the last measure of your music. So when I count you in on a pickup, I would count 1, 2, 3. You come in 4 and 1. Okay? A pickup beat doesn't have to only be one beat. Sometimes it's half a beat. Sometimes it's 2 beats. Okay, so if I'm in 3/4 time, I could have an 8th note here. And then how many beats would I have in my last measure if I used an 8th note as my pickup, as my anacrusis? How many beats did I have left over in my last measure? 2.5. So maybe I have a half note and an 8th rest. Okay? So that's 1, 2, 3, and. That's the second part of the 3rd beat. Any questions about pickup beats? Okay. There's also a page about Italian terms, but all the Italian terms, the definitions are given to you. So you just need to read through. Da capo, dal segno, and coda phrases. What does da capo mean? What does da capo mean? What do you do when it says da capo al fine? Sorry? Big finish? No.
Go back to start.
Go back to the beginning. So da capo basically means take it from the top. If you think of it as a hat, okay, a cap. Da capo, like a hat on the top of your head, take it from the top. Does that help? I'm just trying to help you remember. Okay? So you want to start at the beginning. Yeah, it is. It's totally gangsta. Da capo. So take it from the top. If it says da capo al fine, what does that mean? Da capo means go back to the beginning.
Finish.
And play until it says fine, because fine means finish or the end. So finish. Fine, the end. Okay, so da capo al fine. Shh. Da capo al fine means go back to the beginning and play until it says fine, because that's the end. What's dal segno?
Go back to the sun.
Okay. Mackie.
Go back to the sign.
The sign, yeah. So dal segno means the sign.
What sign? The fire.
Okay? The sign looks like this. I can never draw this thing. Okay? There's your sign. That's what the sign looks like.
No.
You know why? Because music is supposed to be universal. So no matter where you live, you have to learn all the music terminology in the language that it was created. A lot of the language was created in Italy. So even if you are living in Germany, you learn all the musical language in Italian. Some of it is Latin, but most of it is Italian. So, yeah, and that way, if you got together with a group of people from China, or you got together with a group of people from Hungary, or you got together with a group of people from Switzerland, it absolutely would not matter. We could hand you all the exact same music and have you play it. Because it's a universal
Away
language.
from sight lines.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.